Title 10 late draft NBA stars who proved everyone wrong, from Jokic to Brunson. What if I told you some of the biggest stars of the 2020s were almost passed over completely? Jalen Brunson was taken 33rd. Nikola Jokic was taken 41st. Draymond Green fell to the second round. Fred VanVleet didn't hear his name called at all. But somehow these overlooked players turned draft night doubt into championships, MVPs, all-star appearances, and unforgettable playoff moments. Because in the NBA, the draft is supposed to tell us who the future stars are. Lottery picks get the spotlight. Top 5 picks get the hype. Number 1 picks get the commercials, the billboards, the expectations, and the franchise keys. But every once in a while, a player slips. Maybe he's too small. Maybe he's too old. Maybe he's not athletic enough. Maybe scouts don't know his role. Maybe they don't believe his game will translate. And then years later, that same player is standing on the biggest stage in basketball, holding a trophy, silencing every front office that passed on him. Today on Sports Stars Recap, we're counting down the top 10 overlooked late draft NBA stars of the 2020s until 2026. These are the players who were not drafted like guaranteed superstars, but became champions, all-stars, franchise leaders, MVPs, and playoff nightmares. And wait until we get to number 1, because Jalen Brunson's story just became one of the greatest you should have drafted me higher stories the NBA has ever seen. Let's get into it. Before we start, here's the rule. This countdown is not just about who was picked the lowest. It's about who was overlooked the most compared to what they became. Some of these players were late first-round picks. Some were second-round steals. One went undrafted. And one was picked outside the lottery, but became so great that his draft spot now looks crazy. So when you hear the names on this list, don't just think about where they were drafted. Think about what teams missed. Think about the scouts who said, he's not big enough. Think about the reports that said, he's not athletic. Think about the front offices that said, he's a role player. Because these players didn't just prove people wrong, they made the whole league rewrite the scouting report. Starting us off at number 10, Desmond Bane. Drafted 2020, pick 30. We start with Desmond Bane. Now, Bane was not some mystery player hiding overseas. He was a strong, experienced college guard from TCU who could shoot the lights out. But that was also part of the problem. In the draft world, being an older college player can actually work against you. Teams love upside. They love teenagers with long arms, crazy verticals, and highlight reel potential. So when Bane came into the league, some teams looked at him and said, good shooter, solid player. But future star? Probably not. That is how he ended up as the final pick of the first round. Pick number 30. The last name called before the second round began. But once Bane got to the NBA, he wasted no time proving that his game was built for the modern league. Strong frame, quick release, deep range, smart decision making, and most importantly, no fear. In Memphis, Bane became more than just a shooter standing in the corner. He became a real scoring weapon. He could punish closeouts, attack off the dribble, defend his position, and space the floor for Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. That is what made Bane so valuable. He wasn't just a good shooter. He was a two-way guard with playoff toughness. And by 2025, the league had seen enough. Orlando was willing to pay a massive price to get him, because players like Bane are exactly what winning teams need. A guard who can shoot, defend, create, and fit next to stars. That's the difference between being drafted as a safe pick and becoming a player teams chase. Sports Stars recap line, Desmond Bane went from the final pick of the first round to a player teams were willing to pay a superstar price for. And that's why he starts this countdown. Climbing the list to number 9, Tyrese Maxey. Drafted 2020, pick 21. We have Tyrese Maxey. Now this one is interesting because Maxey was not exactly unknown. He played at Kentucky. He had speed. He had confidence. He had a scorer's mentality, but going into the draft, teams still had questions. Was he big enough? Was he a true point guard? Was his jump shot reliable? Could he run an NBA offense? Or was he just a fast guard who would be better as a spark plug off the bench? That doubt pushed him to the 21st pick in the 2020 NBA draft, and at the time, that might have felt fair. But looking back, it looks like a mistake, because Maxey became one of the fastest rising guards of the decade. His speed is not regular speed, it's game-changing speed. He doesn't just run fast, he pressures the defense every second he's on the floor. Defenders backpedal, big men drop, help defenders freeze. And once Maxey turns the corner, it's already too late. But the real reason he belongs on this list is growth. Maxey didn't stay the same player he was on draft night. He improved his shooting, he improved his control, he became a better passer, he became a more complete scorer, and by the middle of the 2020s, he was no longer just a young guard next to Joel Embiid. He was a star. That is what separates overlooked players from ordinary players. They take every weakness from the scouting report and turn it into a weapon. Teams questioned his shooting, he became a dangerous shooter. Teams questioned his role, he became a lead guard. Teams wondered if he could become a star, he became one of Philadelphia's most important players. Sports Stars recap line: Tyrese Maxey wasn't drafted to save a franchise, but he became one of the fastest rising guards of the decade. And when you think about late first round value, Maxey is one of the biggest steals of the 2020 draft. Landing at number 8 on this list, Fred VanVleet. Drafted, undrafted. We have one of the best undrafted success stories in modern basketball, Fred VanVleet. And this one hits different because VanVleet didn't slide to pick 30. He didn't fall to the second round. He went undrafted. That means every NBA team passed on him more than once. Why? Too small, not explosive enough, not long enough, not the type of guard scouts usually fall in love with. But here's the thing about Fred VanVleet: nobody could measure his toughness. Nobody could measure his confidence. Nobody could measure the way he sees the game. VanVleet came into the NBA with a chip on his shoulder, and he played like every possession was a reminder. He built himself from the bottom. G League reps, bench minutes, defensive assignments, big shots, bigger moments. Then came 2019. The Toronto Raptors went on a championship run, and VanVleet became one of the most important role players in that entire playoff journey. He hit huge shots, he guarded, he handled pressure, he gave Toronto steady guard play when the lights were the brightest. And after that championship, he didn't disappear. He became an all-star. He became a leader. He became one of the greatest undrafted players in NBA history. That is why Fred VanVleet's story is so powerful. He is proof that draft night is not a final judgment. It is just the first chapter. Sports Stars recap line: Fred VanVleet heard 0 names called on draft night, then made himself impossible to ignore. And for every undersized guard watching the draft from home, Fred VanVleet is the reminder: bet on yourself. Coming sharply in at number 7, Pascal Siakam. Drafted 2016, pick 27. At number 7, we have Pascal Siakam. When Pascal entered the NBA, nobody looked at him as a future All-NBA forward. He was raw. He was still learning. He was a late-blooming prospect from New Mexico State with energy, length, and potential, but not a finished offensive game. That is why Toronto got him at pick 27, late first round, a development project. But what the Raptors saw was something special: motor. Siakam played hard all the time. He ran the floor like a guard. He defended multiple positions. He brought energy that could change a game before he even had polished moves. Then year after year, his game expanded. The spin move became dangerous. The handle improved, the mid-range game improved, the confidence grew, and by 2019, Siakam wasn't just a role player on a title team. He was a major reason Toronto won the championship. That same year, he became the NBA's most improved player, turning himself from a late first-round flyer into one of the best forwards in the league. And in the 2020s, Siakam kept proving it wasn't a one-year story. He became an all-star. He became an all-NBA player. He became a player who could carry offense, defend, rebound, and impact playoff basketball. Pascal's story is all about development. He wasn't drafted as a finished product. He was drafted as a question. Then he became the answer. Sports Stars recap line: Pascal Siakam went from a late pick to a championship-level forward with all-NBA impact. And that is why he belongs on this list. Number 6, Chris Middleton. Drafted 2012, pick 39. At number 6, we have Chris Middleton. Now, Middleton's career is one of the quietest superstar-adjacent stories in the NBA. He was picked 39th overall in the second round. Not hyped, not marketed as a franchise piece, not expected to become a championship closer. He was a smooth wing with shooting touch, but he did not have the explosive athletic profile that usually makes scouts jump out of their seats, so he slipped. And for a while, he looked like the type of player who might just be a solid rotation guy. But in Milwaukee, Middleton became something much bigger. He became Giannis Antetokounmpo's most trusted running mate. He became the calm in the chaos. When defenses loaded up on Giannis, Middleton was the player Milwaukee trusted to create in the half court. Pull-up jumpers, late clock shots, tough mid-range buckets, big playoff possessions. And in the 2021 playoffs, Middleton delivered some of the biggest shots of the Bucks championship run. He wasn't always loud, he wasn't always flashy, but he was reliable in the biggest moments. That's what makes Middleton special. Not every star has to dominate with dunks and viral highlights. Some stars destroy you quietly, one tough jumper at a time. Sports stars. Question 1. What made Tyrese Maxey so dangerous as a guard? A. Shot blocking. B. Speed and scoring. C. Post moves. D. Rebounding. That is one of the best second-round wins of the modern era. The correct answer is B. Speed and scoring. Question 2. Which team did Fred VanVleet win a championship with? A. Rockets. B. Warriors. C. Raptors. D. Bucks. The correct answer is C. Raptors. Number 5. Jimmy Butler, drafted 2011, pick 30. At number 5, we have Jimmy Butler. And let's be honest, Jimmy Butler might be the ultimate you didn't believe in me player. He was taken with the 30th pick in the 2011 NBA draft, the last pick of the first round. Back then, teams did not see a future playoff superstar. They saw a tough defender, a worker, maybe a role player, maybe a guy who could bring energy off the bench. But Jimmy Butler did not build his career off hype. He built it off obsession. Every year, he got better. First, he became a defender. Then he became a starter. Then he became a scorer. Then he became an all-star. Then he became a franchise leader. And by the 2020s, Jimmy Butler had turned into one of the scariest playoff players in the NBA. Because regular season Jimmy is good, but playoff Jimmy, that is a whole different problem. He slows the game down. He hunts mismatches. He gets to the free throw line. He guards the other team's best player. He talks. He competes. He makes the entire team believe they can win, even when nobody else believes it. That is why his Miami playoff runs became legendary. Jimmy Butler proved that a player can be drafted as a role player and become the identity of a franchise. He was not supposed to be the face of deep playoff runs. He became exactly that. Sports Stars recap line: Jimmy Butler wasn't drafted like a superstar, but in the playoffs, he played like one of the scariest players alive. And that's why Jimmy belongs in the top 5. Number 4, Draymond Green. Drafted 2012, pick 35. At number 4, we have Draymond Green. Draymond is one of the greatest examples of a player who didn't fit the old NBA scouting box. What position was he? Too small to be a traditional power forward, not enough scoring to be a wing, not athletic enough to be a top pick, not a clean fit. That is how he fell to pick 35 in the second round. But Golden State didn't need Draymond to fit the old NBA. They needed him to help create the new one. Draymond became the defensive brain of a dynasty. He could guard bigs. He could switch on to guards. He could call out actions before they happened. He could grab a rebound, push the break, and find shooters before the defense even got set. He was not the leading scorer. He was not the smoothest shooter. But he was the heartbeat. And sometimes, the heartbeat is what makes a dynasty alive. With Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson stretching defenses, Draymond became the connector, the screener, the passer, the defender, the trash talker, the emotional engine, 4 championships, defensive player of the year, multiple all-star appearances, multiple all-defensive teams. From pick 35, that is not just a steal, that is a franchise-changing pick. Sports Stars recap line, Draymond Green didn't fit the NBA mold, so he changed what the mold looked like. And when people talk about basketball IQ, defensive versatility, and winning impact, Draymond's name has to be in the conversation. Number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Drafted 2013, pick 15. At number 3, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, some people might say, wait, Giannis was drafted 15th. Is that really late? But here's the point. Giannis was not drafted like a sure superstar. He was not drafted in the top 5. He was not drafted as a polished franchise savior. He was drafted outside the lottery spotlight as a raw international prospect with mystery, length, and upside. Teams saw the tools, but they didn't know what he would become. And what he became was unbelievable. A 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, NBA champion, Finals MVP. One of the most dominant physical forces basketball has ever seen. Giannis did not enter the league as the Greek freak we know today. He was skinny, raw, still learning the NBA game, still growing into his body. But every season, he added something: strength, handle, footwork, defense, playmaking, leadership, and by the 2021 NBA Finals, Giannis had become a superstar capable of carrying Milwaukee to a championship. That finals performance changed everything. He didn't just win a title, he delivered one of the greatest closeout performances in finals history and brought Milwaukee its first championship in 50 years. Giannis is what happens when upside meets work ethic. He was a gamble, then he became a guarantee. Sports Stars recap line, Giannis was drafted outside the lottery spotlight, then became the face of a championship franchise. And that's why he belongs this high. Number 2, Nikola Jokic. Drafted 2014, pick 41. At number 2, we have Nikola Jokic, the Joker, the 41st pick, the second-round center who was literally drafted during a commercial break. And now, he is one of the greatest offensive centers basketball has ever seen. Jokic is the perfect example of why scouting can be so complicated. He didn't jump out of the gym. He didn't look like a traditional NBA athlete. He didn't have the body type that made scouts scream future MVP. But what he did have was genius. Basketball genius. Passing angles nobody else sees. Touch that makes impossible shots look casual. Footwork that moves defenders without needing speed, patience that makes defenses panic, and the ability to control an entire game without looking rushed. Jokic didn't just become good, he became the system. Denver's offense ran through him because he could punish every coverage. Double team him, he finds the open shooter. Play him straight up, he scores. Send help late, he already saw it coming. And in 2023, Jokic led Denver to its first NBA championship and won Finals MVP. Think about that. The 41st pick became the best player on a championship team. Not a role player. Not a sidekick. The best player. That is why Jokic's story is one of the greatest draft steals ever. Sports Stars recap line, Nikola Jokic was drafted during a commercial break, then became the player every defense feared. And if this list was only about draft position compared to talent, Jokic might be number 1. But in 2026, one story just took over the basketball world. Number 1, Jalen Brunson. Drafted 2018, pick 33. At number 1, we have Jalen Brunson. And this is where the whole countdown comes together. Because Jalen Brunson was not drafted like a future Finals MVP. He was not drafted like the player who would bring New York basketball back to the mountaintop. He was not drafted like a superstar. He was drafted 33rd overall. Second round, too small, not explosive enough. Safe backup guard, good college player. Winner at Villanova, but maybe not a star in the NBA. That was the label. And early in his career, Brunson played behind Luka Doncic in Dallas. He was useful, smart, efficient, tough, but to many people, he was still seen as a secondary piece. Then he got to New York, and everything changed. The Knicks didn't just get a point guard, they got a leader. They got someone who could handle the pressure of Madison Square Garden. They got someone who could turn boos into belief. They got someone who could carry the offense late in games and never look scared of the moment. Brunson's game is not built on height. It's built on footwork. It's built on strength. It's built on balance. It's built on patience. He gets defenders leaning. He uses his body. He changes speeds. He stops on a dime. He uses pivots like an old-school guard with a modern scoring package. And in the 2026 playoffs, Brunson became the focal point of New York's championship run. Against the Spurs, the finals had everything. Victor Wembanyama was the matchup nightmare. His length changed shots. His defense made every drive feel dangerous. His presence gave San Antonio a real chance to steal the series and begin a new dynasty. Wembanyama was the focal point for the Spurs because everything New York did had to account for him. If Brunson drove, Wemby was waiting. If the Knicks attacked the paint, Wemby was protecting the rim. If the Spurs needed momentum, Wemby's blocks and rebounds could flip the game in seconds. But Brunson answered the challenge. That is what made his finals MVP run so special. He wasn't just scoring against a normal defense. He was scoring against a Spurs team with one of the most terrifying defensive anchors in basketball. And in Game 5, Brunson delivered the moment that will live forever in Knicks history. 45 points, a finals franchise record, a championship-clinching performance, a 94-90 win, the Knicks' first NBA title since 1973, and Jalen Brunson, the 33rd pick, standing as finals MVP. That is not just a basketball story, that is a legacy moment. New York waited more than 5 decades for another championship. Stars came and went, hype came and went, big promises came and went, but the player who finally delivered it was not a number 1 pick, not a top 5 phenom, not a lottery golden child. It was Jalen Brunson, a second-round pick who turned doubt into discipline, a guard who heard all the questions about size and athleticism, then answered with skill, toughness, and leadership. Sports Star's recap line: Jalen Brunson went from second-round steal to championship king of New York. And now his story stands at the top of this countdown, because when a player drafted 33rd becomes the finals MVP and leads the Knicks to their first championship since 1973, that is no longer just a draft steal. That is basketball history. Question 3. What role did Draymond play for Golden State's dynasty? A. 3-point specialist only. B. Main scorer. C. Backup center only. D. Defensive engine. Eyes up. Decision time. You've got 10 seconds. The answer is D. Defensive engine. Question 4. Which overlooked player led the Knicks to the 2026 NBA title? A. Tyrese Maxey. B. Desmond Bane. C. Jalen Brunson. D. Chris Middleton. One play, one answer. 10 seconds. The answer is C. Now I want to hear from you. Which overlooked NBA star shocked you the most? Was it Jokic going 41st? Was it Van Vliet going undrafted? Was it Draymond becoming the heart of a dynasty? Or was it Jalen Brunson turning New York into champions again? Drop your answer in the comments, because this debate is going to get heated. And if you love NBA stories about players proving everybody wrong, don't stop here. Watch the next Sports Stars recap video, where we break down the NBA stars who were doubted early but became legends when the pressure got real. Because in the NBA, stars are not always found at the top of the draft. Sometimes, they are hiding in plain sight. This is Sports Stars Recap, and we'll catch you in the next one.